all have our own connections. Every single one of you has your own connection to what isn't this. But the way that the crew have taught me to have trust over the years, and it's taken a lot of trust, I can tell you, I am officially the most reluctant channel ever. I literally have turned away from this so many times because we as humans, we so want this hierarchy. We so want this, are you better than? Or are you higher than? Or are you one of the ascended masters? Or are you one of the angels? Or are you one of the dragons? Or are you this? Or are you that? And yes, there is lots of channels out there who have connections to particular energies and particular entities and particular hierarchies and all of that. So whatever you are feeling drawn to, there will be a connection. There will be someone that can help you connect to your own more of the moreness of you, which is what the crew have really wrapped up in me over the years as a mantra of, what is the more of the moreness of me? And just to keep asking that every day, because they are here, that they're not this. And their advice and their guidance is always to remember that we were more than this before we chose to step here in physical form. We were more than this before we chose to take this step to be human for a short while. And we are more than this, even though we have taken a step to do this in human form and to live as humans for a little while and to experience life. So it's really interesting how things have evolved. And yes, this is what I do now. Excuse me, itchy nose. So yeah, this is what I do now. This is how I spend my days. People actually have the opportunity to work one-to-one with me and with the crew. I have one-to-one meetings where some people are absolutely ready to have a one-to-one with the crew, and some people, when we have these one-to-one situations, it turns out that actually the gentler version of this through me is what's required in that day. And that's the way that I've learned to work and live and sort of flow with this communication with the crew, is that it's always what's required in the now. It's always this moment. It's always the nowness that gets the connection. And so we as humans, we've got all sorts of, weird fuckery going on in our heads because we're human and life's complicated and we have to pay the bills and the kids are screaming and the dog needs his food and all of this and the world's exploding. And, it's not the easiest time to be here right now. It's really not. But we all chose to be here now. We all chose this. We all chose this time to be here as human. We all chose this time to step into this time as the teachers and the guides and the way showers and the ones who are bringing the next level for humanity. And so this was the latest nudge, really, from the crew. This was the latest thing that they'd been nudging me to do for a while. And I'll be really honest, I could have done 6 months of these. It took me a month to decide to actually do them and to show up, because it seemed on a human level to me a huge weight of responsibility, because I know how big this is. I know each and every one of you are carrying an experience of life which is enormous right now. Each and every one of you is carrying an experience of existence that you chose before you came down, that you knew before you came down and stepped into this mortal realm. You knew that you were here to bring change. And what's happened over these last few years, especially, is that what we thought we were here to do has changed as well. Because right now, the energy of this world is that every single roadmap that we thought we had has gone out of the window. Every single bit of teaching that is out there, we're listening to as individuals, and we're recognizing that I love that that is an experience of another human trying to make sense of what is not this. But there's that deep knowing that's inbuilt into all of us now, that that is someone else's interpretation of what this life is, and what outside of this life is, and what is the moreness of this. And right now, we are all really trailblazing our own way. That's what this is all about. It's about us being brave enough to be the true trailblazers for ourselves, be the true trailblazers for the rest of humanity. So yeah, life has not been easy for us. And even when we thought we kind of got it, what's happened over the last few years is that we have literally said to the universe, yep, bring it on. I'm ready. Bring it on. Bring on the more. Bring on the what, the energy. I'm here. I know I'm an energy worker. I know I'm a light worker. I know that I'm here to be something. I know that I have a purpose. Bring it, bring it, bring it, bring it, bring it. So what's happened is the universe has matched that desire in all of us that are here unregistered for this call. The universe has matched that call, and the awakenings have literally been coming and been coming and been coming. Whereas, a few of us that have got, a few years in this, we used to go through an awakening, and then maybe we had a couple of years to embody the newness of what's just arrived. But now it's coming. It's like it's here. We experience it, we feel it, we acknowledge it, we accept it, we embody it, and then literally within what seems like days, the next one's coming in. And so why is that? It is that because we are all here to do this. We are here literally quickening the experience of energetic evolution. And we're doing it because we agreed to do it before we arrived. So, we're in it. We are here now, and we're experiencing it. We're embedded in it. We're fully in this solid linear manifest world. And sometimes we look around at it and go, oh, fuck. Fuck. What happened there? But it also gives us a great opportunity to recognize that all of these boundaries that we are seeing collapsing around us now, we're helping to make that happen. We're all of us helping to make that happen. And we're making that happen because we are so open, and because we are so allowing and saying, yeah, I'm ready for more. Yeah, I'm ready for more. Yeah, I'm ready for more. I'm ready for the next, and I'm ready for the next. And that is what we are here to do. And so before I hand over to the crew, because that's what's going to happen today, is I am going to step out. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping information before that happens. So, yes, as you have noticed, I am a little bit sweary, but in a nice way. I can be very spiritual and sweary at the same time. But that does mean that I hope that you are not offended. So if you are a little bit offended by the sweariness, I'm really sorry. It is the way I am. It's all said with love. I can swear at you and love you at the same time. So please don't be offended and please don't disappear. So that's all right. You know, you've probably turned off by now if you're offended by the word fuck or fuckery, but there you go. So yes, housekeeping. This is the first of 5 events. So what you've actually done is you have signed into a series of these webinars. And the idea being that the crew wanted to create a sanctuary space where each one of us that are going through our deep and intense lives, let's be honest, we are in an intense period. So each one of us that is going through this deep and intense time have a place to come back to as a little touchstone every month, as like a place to just know that there's this collective that you can step into at any time to remind you of the you-ness that is not this. To just recognize and be held in that space of that all connectedness that we all know that we're a part of. You know, we're not new to this. We all know that we're a part of this. But to have that sanctuary space where you can literally just come and bring a brew and just listen to the crew and be held in this really beautiful supported energy that they're going to bring through. That's what these were all about. So over the next period, what's going to happen is you will automatically get a recording of this session. That'll be into your inbox pretty much within hours of the end of this. But I'm going to take each of these recordings and I'm going to put the subtitles on them. And then I've got a space in a online library where I'm going to give you access to. So you'll get an email very shortly about how to access the library. And all of these recordings will be in there. So you can come back and you can re-listen and you can have these touchstones and you can just step in and step out and just trust that you will hear the piece that you need to hear in that moment. Because the crew are very clever about actually sort of preloading all of the things that we actually need into these recordings. And quite often I listen back to some of them and it's like there's this deep remembering that, oh yes, I heard that. And my brain didn't actually hear it, but my soul and my sense of self just so heard it at the time that I needed. And then maybe when I've gone back and listened again, it's like the remembering is there of who I used to be before I heard that. And then just recognizing that shift that I've gone through to now be who I am. Listening to these recordings again, it is an absolute gift. So that library will be sent to you very shortly and they will build over time. And I'm also going to put in that library some other channels and some other recordings and some other places so you can start to really feel that there is a place for you that doesn't fit into other people's prescribed versions of, you know, what you need right now. So you literally can just tap in and see it as a library and just grab what you need in the moment or the recording that you feel drawn to, and it's all going to be there. So this is how this bit is going to work. Now, as I explained earlier, I am a very normal human being. And what this means is that I appreciate that this is very weird. Okay, if you have never seen voice channeling before, what happens is I will literally just take a few big deep breaths. I will step out of the way and I will let the energy of the crew step through and step forward, and they will share whatever they want to share to this collective, to this meeting that we have today, this meeting of souls, this meeting of energies. And it does look a bit weird. So I'll have my eyes closed. But if you don't want to watch, that's absolutely fine. Just close your eyes, you know, or drink your tea, just to really enjoy being held in this time. Just really enjoy this connection to what isn't this. Really enjoy the experience of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back out and we'll have a little chat at the end of it. If you cannot stay all the way through, completely get it. Like I say, you will be getting a recording of this. So just know that you will have heard what you need to hear. And, you know, all is good. Everything that I do is always very relaxed. Everything that the crew do is always very relaxed. It's always about what's in the now. So there's not much prep. There's not much to talk about, really. And so, yeah, I'm going to go do that now, if we're ready. Okay. So, everything is set. If we can all hear perfectly well again. I will see you in a little while. I'll probably come out. I might swear a bit because it's always really interesting for me. And then, yeah, we'll see where we go. So thank you. And I'll see you again in a little while. Welcome to all of you. We are so grateful. We are so grateful for each and every single individual one of you. We are so grateful that each of you has chosen to be here, not only just for this communication and this conversation this evening, but for this existence, for your entire existence here on this linear plane now. For as it has been explained to you, you are indeed changing this world by your agreement to be a part of it. We are stepping forward, as has been explained, as a collective of energies that is outside of this linear, solid, manifest creation of existence, we shall say. For from outside of it, as you have been outside of it, you are aware that all that is within it is a construction, is a pre-agreement of what this element and existence of life is to be. And you, each and every one of you, as the Lightbringers here, you have chosen to be of a new blueprint here. You have chosen to walk in this world as one who is, and we shall not say unafraid, but of one who is willing to be different, willing to be outside of, willing to be on the edge of, willing to always feel apart from, willing to always be one who does not fit into this world. Now, this does not mean that you will not have had experiences of joy here, for that is indeed the purpose of being here, is to experience life as human, as the fullest extent of you, and to experience each and every moment of this life as the joy that it is, as the experiencing and witnessing of life and creation itself. But you are here, as we say, with a pre-agreed directive within yourself that you would not be one who perpetuates the balance that exists. Let us explain a little further. This world that you are being held in now, and we say being held in because we hold you in this time. We are holding you in these moments that you are listening to these words. You are being held in a remembrance of the connection to all things that you are, in the remembrance of all that you are that is outside of this, in the remembrance of all that you are and all that you agreed before you stepped forward into this realm of humanness. You are being held here. You are being held in a frequency of love, a frequency of highest self, highest knowing, highest expanded you. For you are far more than you are aware that you are. You are far more than you are experiencing yourself as in this moment. You are far more. And this is why we have guided this channel to create these events and to live with her own experience of show me more of the moreness of me. And this is what you are experiencing here now, is the moreness of you. The knowing and the remembering in your cells and yourself and your energy and all that you are far more. And so let us return to this concept, if we may, for a moment, to remind you of your agreement, of the separateness of you. Now, many of you will have been taught that there is a separateness that occurs when a soul steps into human form. This is truth. There is a progression, if you will, of understanding that a being such as yourself goes through, where you recognize that you are in human self and energetic self, two separate beings living as one in this moment. You have all discovered this for yourself. You have all discovered that you have connection to energy and knowledge that is outside of your own physical knowing, your own physical learning, your own physical creation of human self. Everyone who is listening to these words knows this as truth. You know that you are more. And this separateness of human self has been taught as a understanding of how you are more than, that you are a soul, that you are in a progression, that you are in a learning space, shall we say. What we would like to bring to you as an additional concept today is that all of that is also a concept of learning. Now, allow yourself to just let in this possibility of possibility, for we feel that it will bring within you great peace to allow this as a possibility into your concept of understanding. That outside of this progressive self, there is a pre-agreed reality. There is a pre-agreed reality of all humankind here now. There is a blueprint, if you like. There is a standard setting, shall we say, that all humans, including the one that you were born into, have within them a programming of the limitations and the understandings of what it means to be a human, what it means to walk this world in this linear time frame, what it means to walk in this world through time and space and understanding, what it means to be in a progression of life, what it means to grow old, what it means to have a physical framework, what it means to be the machine, the animal, the concept, the framework, the being that you are. There is a blueprint for this. And all of you had an agreement that you would step into this and understand that you would be stepping into these pre-agreed limitations. And in doing so, you would encounter separation. You would encounter the non-connectedness. You would encounter limitation in what this human form is capable of. You would encounter separation from all of those around you. You would encounter separation because moving from a state of non-physical into physical requires a shift into separation. And therefore there is a yearning that is built into the heart of all beings in this pre-agreed reality, that you remember that you were once part of a deeper connection. And there are those of you who have worked through this lifetime to unfold and unfurl and allow a deeper connection back into that space again. You understand that you are part of a collective here. You understand that you are energy for many of you. You understand that you are resonance made real. You understand that you are made solid because of the pre-agreement of resonance being made solid. Many of you understand these concepts. And this is the first level of separation that we speak of. That all souls over eons that have chosen to be made in physical form to live in this world for a short while feel this separation. However, you, as part of this collective, as you have been drawn to these words, as you have been drawn to this channel and drawn to this communication, you are also here with a blueprint for an entirely different concept of being. And this is the remembering that there is an outside of all of the pre-agreed reality that you are made manifest into. If you can imagine that the entirety of all things, every single thing in this experience of life is created through a pre-agreement that you stepped into as human, that has been self-perpetuating itself through the experience of being human for eons. And this means that all within this space is of created reality. There have been those here who have searched for ways to explore and expand what is not solid, what is more than. And the energy outside of has been created into explanations, into ways of teaching, into understandings that others have given as signposts towards something that is more, towards something that is outside of. But what has occurred is that the explanations of, and the stories of, and the thought forms therefore created from have self-perpetuated into a deeper version of this solid, linear, time-framed space, where others have reached into and created understandings for each and every piece of that which exists within it already. Let that be heard. What exists within it already. And this is the self-perpetuation that we speak of. For now we live in a time where humanity is expanding its vibrational frequency to such an extent that the blueprints that have been, that the pre-agreement of what is no longer capable of holding space for what is to come. For what is to come is beyond the current reality concept and agreement that has been made the blueprint of humanity so far. And you can hear us when we say that there have been different blueprints in times gone by. There have been different civilizations and understandings of life where these pre-agreements were far different. But in this pre-agreement that you are in now, this loop of reality, we shall say, where the understanding of reality self-perpetuates itself over and over again, this is what you are here to be one who breaks free of. And this is why you came into this space, with an understanding and a remembering and a knowing and a frequency and an energy that was never made to fit in. That was never made to take the teachings and the learnings of others. That was never made to be a fully embedded self here. For by being outside of it, you and millions of others And we say this with truth. Millions of others chose to be here to live this existence outside of the blueprint, outside of the current reality loop, if you will. And in doing so, you pre-agreed with yourself that you would feel an additional level of separation, because there is a requirement for you to be here outside of, with a remembering of the outside of all that is, that you are bringing to this space now. And that is why you, as the Lightbringers, as networked together, being in the places where you were made manifest, in the lineages where you were made manifest, in the lives where you chose to be manifest, you are bringing a frequency of outside of. You are bringing a frequency which is networking together to elevate this world far beyond the blueprint it currently has. And yes, you are that powerful. And yes, you may have been believing that your being outside of has made you feel for your entire lives that you have missed something, that you are doing something wrong, that you are not accepted. But we wish for you to hear and be held in and know and remember the truth of yourself, that you agreed to come here to be a bringer of the new light, of the new becoming. And that means that the resonance of outside of this needed to be woven so solidly into this time and space to allow in what is more of the moreness for humanity now. Or is it not true that this world requires answers from outside of the reality loop that you are already in? Is it not that humanity requires a reconnection to what is more than the thisness of now? Is it not true that you, as being one who has always questioned, who has always yearned for understanding more, is it not true that that has brought you here to this time, this knowing, this allowing yourself to be the fullness of who you are? And now to hear that you are a part of millions who chose this path. Let this be a freeing moment for you. That indeed it is those of you who are breaking free of patterns, that are allowing that separation that you have always felt to create a new world, not only in your life and your existence, but for humanity, for this world, and for this entire concept of created linear time frame now. For there is far more that is arriving, and humanity is not prepared yet to have the skills, to have the abilities, to recognize that this human framework that you live within is capable of so much more. A new blueprint is required, and you are witnessing it unfolding in this world. You are seeing how the breaking down of old rules and old patterns and ways that you are witnessing yourself, recognizing that you are not a part of. This is the power that you bring now, where you see yourself looking upon this world and know that it is the separation from it that is allowing you to create new, that is allowing you to step free of. And this world that maybe you have always struggled to feel a part of, you now see falling away from you, and you no longer wish to reach out for it. For you know that you are already beyond it. And this is the awakening that is being brought about now, that you are feeling now. This separateness is truly a gift to this world, is truly a gift to humanity, is truly a gift to every single person that you come into contact with. For the light that you bring, that brings with it an outside of this energy, that there is more than this energy, that there is different choices available energy. You rekindle that in all of the people that you meet in this world. You are the spark and the light, and you bring that forward in every single communication that you have. And this is why we encouraged these conversations, so that you could come together and remember and be held in the energy and knowing and remembering of the outside of the thisness. That there is more than this solid linear time frame that you are in. That there is more than the current understanding of the structure of reality. And we mean that in the entire sense of reality, in every single concept and every single understanding of it and every single believing of it. All of it is up for questioning. And it is you as the Lightbringers that are bringing the questions. And you are bringing the questions and the answers that the rest of humanity has not even brought themselves to think of yet. And this is why for many of you who are healers and teachers and guides, you are struggling because the reality of the solidity of life is encouraging you to remain within the structured sense of understanding of the now. But you are called to create the things that are prepared for when the rest of humanity catches up. And yes, it is a complicated space to be. But you know that you are driven and you have within you a desire to create that which comes through you now. Do not simply look for the validations of what has been. You know that you are here in a way that is not any longer to fix the problems that already exist, but to bring through an entirely different new concept of life itself. And that all starts with each and every one of you owning the light that you are, owning the message that you bring, and knowing that you bring that in every single breath, in every single communication, in every single conversation, in every single moment, in every single beat of the heart that you have in this solid form. That is what you bring to this world. You are far more. And we know that we have perhaps encouraged you to expand into places which may feel uncomfortable. which may feel like your brain does not understand. But it is your brain, as human self, that needs a little time to catch up. The energy frequency of you, the resonance of you, the light of you knows this truth, knows that you are here for bringing in these new concepts of existence. That simply by being here as the questioners, as the bringers of a new frequency, as the ones who are here living differently, living outside of, witnessing your experience of not quite fitting in. That is your greatest gift, for that is what is required for humanity. And we will go deeper in conversations to come. We will go further, and we will bring answers to questions that you will have. But just know that these times are where you can tap into this energy. It matters not when you listen to these words. The frequency is built in from outside of time and space and mass and movement and all of the other rules that you have living here in this pre-agreed agreement of reality. From outside of that space. It is not required that you listen to these words in a particular moment. Just know that you will be called and the energy will be available to you exactly when it is required. But you know this, for this is why you are here. You understand the importance of this. And we are so grateful to you for choosing to be here, for bringing this new energy into this world. And we believe that that is sufficient for this day, for this communication. We will hold you for a few more moments and allow you to return to your physical framework a little more, to become more fully formed and more solid in your human self, to remember your agreement to walk in this life in this time, linear, structured space, but witnessing yourself in being. We have explained through this channel many times that there has been a progression. You have been taught that you were human. You were then taught that you were a spirit having a human experience. What we would like for you to allow yourself to understand is that you are a spiritual being, a connected being, a being outside of all of this, that is having a spiritual experience itself, witnessing itself in being human for this short while. It is a concept that is a step further. Allowing yourself the possibility of possibility. When you understand the construction of what is, when you allow in a visualization of what is, you will also allow in a recognition and a remembering of what is not this. And for this moment, with our deepest gratitude, we shall step back for this day. Well, there we go. That's obviously it's me back now, because I'm going to swear in a minute, obviously. So I'm just going to have a little drink. If that was your first experience of a message from the crew, just allow yourself to come back just a little while. Just allow yourself to find your edges again. And if anybody wants to let me know how that felt, what was going on for you, then feel free to do so. So that was kind of like a little introduction to the entire concept of the crew and what they're here for. And that voice that spoke through, that is, I would say that is the standard, the normal voice that comes through. It's a very holding energy. It's a very steadying energy. It's like having a wise counselor, that particular energy that speaks through. Now, it may not be that voice that speaks through every time when we have one of these conversations, because the crew are an energy collective. And that means that they bring through different forms, they bring through different voices, they bring through different energies. And it's always a remembering of the nowness. So they'll come in and they'll read the room. They'll come in and they'll read the collective. They'll come in and they will hold the space for all of you, and also on an individual basis as well, in an agreement of, that we are all here to bring in the next. And it's not an easy ride. It's really not an easy ride. I'm crying a little bit. Always happens. It's really not an easy ride that we're on, because we've got these different levels. Like, yes, we're human, and yes, we've got all of that angst, and yes, we've got all of the human density stuff. We've got life to do. We've got, work to do. We've got bills to pay. We've got, I've got a dog. I've got a husband. I don't have the children, but I know many of you do. All of that is part of this construction of reality that we are in, and the crew talk about this reality loop. And we're writing a very incredible book at the moment. So there's you're going to get more of this as we go along. But this reality loop that we're in, if we can imagine this literal, loop of time and solidity that we're in, and it just keeps playing itself over and over again, because we check in as a human and then we're agreeing to be human, that is part of this reality loop that keeps playing itself over and over again, and that wants to be weaved back into reality, because it's all got its own weight and it's all got its own momentum. And this reality loop again and again and again just keeps taking us over to make the same decisions over and over again. But what we're here to do is to witness ourselves as outside of that, so that every time we bring in, a question, or we bring in oh, I don't quite agree with that, or, that doesn't feel right to me. Every single time that we do that, we're allowing in a new frequency. And it seems like it's just small things, but it's not. That is the pattern that we are here to bring, the outside of it. And because we're witnessing it all, the witnessing of it creates this new show me more, show me more, show me more of what's outside of it, show me more of what's outside of it. And then we were back into this loop I was talking about earlier on of the, the awakening loop, where we haven't got 2 years to embed the version of ourselves that we've just exploded and had an existential crisis and figured out that, oh, that's not me. We're like literally through and through and through into the next version of ourselves so quickly now. But that's what we are capable of holding. Every single person that's listening to this, we are capable of holding that, because that's what we came to do. And to have that recognition, these ideas and concepts coming through from the crew, to just go, it's okay. That's what you're here for. To not be a part of this. To not keep agreeing to the same old patterns and the same old patterns and the same old patterns. And that's your gift. I mean, it's beautiful. And just as a gift to me, I mean, I don't know if every single one of you is on my mailings that I send out. I'm a very long form kind of girl, you may have noticed. So I just literally will share something when it comes through. And the crew were giving me a little bit of something to hold on to when I said that I was going to do this call today, because I live this. Like, I couldn't prep for this. I just literally have to show up and trust. And that's what we're all doing, is just showing up and trusting and not knowing what's coming. But the crew gave me a little bit of a heads up of kind of the framework of what they were going to bring today, because it just made me, as human me, have something to hold on to so that I didn't freak out completely. But these are the dynamics of that we're all in now. All of us that are listening, it's like the humanness of us has to figure stuff out. And then the outside of that, knowing that we're all part of, constructed space, and it's all our own thinking. And there's so much conversation now around how our thoughts create our reality. But now we've got this additional step of, human forms create reality. But also there's a reality that's outside of this reality that's creating our thoughts, creating our reality. That's when it all gets a bit headfuckery. But that's what we're here for. That's where the crew like to take us. So I'm just going to read some of these comments for a second. Ha ha ha. Bringing that into my sleep and dreams. See what happens. But yeah, just ponder on it for a little while. John, been aware of this for a few days now. The concept of spiritual being having a spiritual experience as a human being. It's popped up over the last few days. Love the crew. Oh, thank you very much. Love listening to the crew. It's kind of drifted in and out, and it's okay since I felt like I heard what I needed to hear. Yeah, and that happens a lot. And the other thing is there's this knowing. I don't know if some of you have worked one-to-one with me and the crew before. So what kind of happens is the words aren't actually the message, if that makes sense. So it's the energy that you get held in, and it does this reweaving, and it does this expanding who we are. It just lets in more of the moreness of us, to keep using that phrase, into our perspective, into our human minds, because the more that we can open our concept of possibility through this human mind, the more that we allow that expanded version of ourselves energetically to start walking as who we are in this world. Because energy changes like that. Energy changes immediately. And then it's the human form of us and all of this that's around us, which are the echoes in solid form of who we were making choices up to now that we're living in. And so, life as solid humanness takes a while to catch up. So we have to recognize that, for a little while, we can feel like we're just not quite understanding what things are going on, existential crisis stuff. Interesting energy, different perspective, what's the now and how we are participating in the newness and the planet moving forward. Yeah, you see, we all are. The more I experience the crew, the more I get curious. Yeah, that happens. One who doesn't fit in here. So relaxing. I truly needed to hear the crew, and thank you. Well, thank you really for being here, and thank you for listening. And like I said, this is a conversation, and this is a progression. So for those of you who've been here live today, say you're going to get a recording of this, please listen to it again. I'll mark it up, I'll pop it in the library, and I'll just put the markers on it so you can go straight to the channel. And just let yourself feel into it again. Let yourself listen to it again. Let yourself be in that energy again. And every single time we have another conversation, the crew will bring in another layer of opening and another layer of concept and another layer of the outside of it. So, it's a cumulative conversation that is this idea of these sanctuary sessions that's going to take us all the way through to the end of this year. Because let's be honest now, this year is shaping up to be pretty different, isn't it? To say the least. It's different. It's very different. It's not what we expected it to be. Like so many of us, we're all sort of looking out around the world and we're wondering, where are we going now? How on earth are people making the decisions they're making right now? And we can start to witness with this knowing and this new perspective that we can witness the solidity of this world. We can witness what's going on. We can be one who's in it and who's witnessing ourselves being in it, and just recognize these patterns that are being broken down, or these patterns that just keep getting chosen again and again and again and again, that are not working anymore. And that is this deconstruction that's happening right now, is the weaving of what has been, the echoes of what has been, because so many of us here now as humans are bringing in this energy. That's the best way I can put it, Crew do it better than that. But we're all bringing in this outside of energy, that I don't agree with that energy, that doesn't sit right with me energy, that are you sure about that energy, that questioning energy. We're all bringing in this new, as the crew said today, this new blueprint, this new idea, and this new concept of there's more than this. There's more than this repeating process. There's more than this solidity. There's more than this capability. And we all know, from the science that we have now, and from, the people that are here doing really in-depth work now, this body is capable of so much more than the patterns and the behaviors and the lives that we've been encouraged, shall we say, the lives that we've been encouraged to live. We're all capable of so much more than that. Our brains are built in a certain way, and nobody can still really figure out what all of that is all for. But what if this next version, what if this next evolution, what if this next wave is where we are recognizing that that's what the extra bit's for. Oh, I see it now. And so we all have an opportunity anyway. We all have an opportunity to recognize that the being outside of is a great gift, that the being different is a great gift, that being a questioner is a great gift, that all of these things that we are that thought, you know, probably in our lives before made us feel a little bit odd and a little bit outside of, they're really truly the gifts that we have. So what I would say is, please feel free, if you'd like to do so, you can send me an email if you wanted to, if you have any questions come up from today. So my email address is, I'll put it in here. Well, you've probably all had an email from me by now anyway. So that is my email address. Feel free to ping me a message about today if a question has come up, or you've meditated on this, or over the next few days something is starting to stir, or you're feeling a little bit different. Feel free to reach out, you know, or alternatively, if you have a question that you would like me to ask of the crew that is of, you know, the outside of, that is of the more than. Trust me when I say that you cannot bring a question that I have not been asked in a one-to-one session. We have gone everywhere by now in the one-to-one sessions. Nothing's off the table. Bring whatever you like, because we'll get an answer to it. And the other thing was, thank you again for being here. But if I can just also let you know, I'm just going to pop into the messages. If any of you are interested, I've just put into the chat there. I've opened the doors to my Warriors one-to-one mentoring. So you've had a little taste of working with the crew today. If you wanted to do that on a one-to-one basis, I have this Warriors mentoring, which again was the crew giving me a little bit of a nudge to say, hold space individually. So there's nothing more to say about that right now, but if you're interested and you like the idea of that, please click and have a look. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be enough to wrap us up today, unless anybody's got anything more they'd like to bring. Let's say these are going to be really, really chilled out sessions. We're going to have time to chat. We're going to have time for questions. In the next one, I'm not going to be talking too much. At the start, we'll get into it. Trust me, the crew can talk for an hour. That's no problem at all. And who knows the energy that might come through next time. So watch out on your emails for your replay. Watch out on your emails also for the introduction to the library, which I'm going to be sending through this week sometime. And thank you again for being here. I think that's probably going to wrap us up for today. So with that, with huge gratitude from myself for being here, I'm going to step back too. And I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity. Thanks ever so much for being here. So ciao for now. Bye for now.